Spirit of Massage, Book 2. Welcome to Book 2 in the Spirit of Massage series. In Book 1, we introduced a number of topics and issues that are central to the practice of massage. Massage involves a unique kind of intimacy between strangers, which, like other practices and services, directly implies a degree of trust, respect, and confidentiality. It may not be as intense an intimacy as, say, counseling or medical services, but it implies a high degree of trust nonetheless. In Book 1, these topics were introduced in a general context of how and why they can have meaning for a masseuse. Here in Book 2, we shift to talking about these issues in a way that is more personal to the masseuse. It is one thing to say, maintain a non-judgmental attitude, but in truth, this can be challenging, and, like everyone, you may likely benefit from receiving a few tips on how to do that. Further, these subtle but critical skills for the masseuse are not something you can just imagine into reality when the client walks into the studio. Like everyone, the aspiring masseuse will benefit from having a form of practice, even a small one, which allows you to think about these skills in a structured way in your own time, in between massages. This way, when the client does walk into the studio, you have already been able to establish your center within yourself. Many of these things, these items, these issues, much like non-attachment or non-judgment, they are bigger concepts, and there is a lot written about them. Although these concepts are not exclusive to Eastern thought, you may notice that they are discussed here in a way that is likely reminiscent of the Eastern approach. This book is not an exhaustive attempt to repeat what has already been written in much better form in other places. The discussion here is brief, but it is strongly suggested that further reading into these topics become part of your ongoing work. In truth, many people are familiar with these teachings, and many aspiring masseuses will already have some form of practice, however small. Perhaps you have a practice in meditation in one of its many forms, or in another moving craft such as Tai Chi or Qigong. In this book, we aim to provide some food for thought to help work on these skills between massages. Like with everything else, it will always be easier to flex the muscles associated with creating safe space if you have practiced in between times. Topics in Book 2 will more or less follow those from Book 1, although only to the extent that they fit the intentions of this book. They may not correspond directly, topic by topic, but can be applied to all aspects of a massage practice nonetheless. Let's begin. Presence of the Giver. Summarizing from Book 1, the presence of the giver refers to the ability and requirement of the masseuse to create a safe space in which a massage can comfortably occur. This is necessary for the specific reason that a massage, by nature, puts the receiver in a vulnerable position. If they are going to relax and to receive the benefits of massage, they must feel safe and they must trust you. At the basic level, they must trust that your intentions are honest, meaning you have respect for the privacy of their body, and that all you do during the massage will be focused on the massage in an honest way. This is the basic contract that allows them to feel vulnerable. However, creating a safe space can also mean more than that, or at least in order to really convey that sense of safety to be vulnerable with what is, in essence, a stranger, you must be able to project a kind of calm in a non-verbal sense, one that can almost fill the room. Many, if not all of us, have had a massage, and thus the conversation around this sense of safety may seem unnecessarily complicated. The thing is, the greater your ability to project a sense of calm, caring energy, the more deeply satisfying the massage is likely to be, regardless of whether the receiver is aware of it or not. Some people feel pleasant to be around just because of the energy they project. This is the product of hard work. At the same time, the allure of appearing to rise above in this way is powerful, and it is important to be careful here not to overshoot the mark. This is a pitfall of which to be cautious. There's a lot to managing your energy by knowing your inner self, which is kind of where we're going with all of this. But in this context, the subject can be discussed simply as a question of being in balance. To be in balance is like walking on a fallen log across a river. Lean too far one way or the other way, and you will fall off. So, when we say it's important to not overshoot the mark, it refers to the fact that our energy, our presence, is most trustworthy when it is authentic and not trying too hard. If it is trying too hard to appear as something really great that we wish it was, it will overshoot the mark of authenticity, and it will have a kind of odor to it that the intuition of others will receive as inauthentic, and therefore somehow not quite as trustworthy. It is important to keep in mind that one of the qualities of authenticity is that it itself is also vulnerable. Something to keep in mind. Now, without having to go down too many rabbit holes, the conversation about being in a calm and authentically trustworthy space within yourself in a massage setting can be simplified. That is because the roles themselves and the relationship you have with the client is limited and clearly defined. You don't have to have the answers to life's hard questions. You are not a guru, a magician, or a miracle worker. If miracle-like experiences happen, ultimately it is because of powers greater than you. You are off the hook for being more than you are. Ultimately, in order to cultivate a space where you are in balance and you bring that balance to your role, you just need to cultivate a space for yourself in which you are comfortable with your confidence and with your own insecurities around this specific task of massage. This is where your own vulnerability comes into play, and it is authentic. When we take on a certain role, until we reach a point of near mastery, insecurities and minor issues of confidence will always be present or present themselves to some degree. This is standard and not to be feared. Just make room for it in your mind for the reality of doubt and the expectation that you will deal with it at some point. And this has a strange way of making it less powerful over you. It is easy for anyone and everyone in any role to suddenly, in private, wonder if they are really capable. It is often irrational, but that is not relevant. More than likely, you already have the experience and learning necessary to do the massage you are about to do, but that will have nothing to do with doubt and its ability to sneak up on you. If you think about it, doubt is a real trickster in this way. If it can fool you into questioning yourself, you may suddenly have a sudden feeling that you need to overstate yourself, as if to compensate for being not enough, when actually that is a ruse, because you are enough. But if you doubt it, and you will subtly make this adjustment, and this can lead you to convey something inauthentic, at which point the doubt, in essence, becomes shared as the other person's intuition picks up on it. This may sound confusing or it may sound familiar. It is not an uncommon experience. The best remedy for it is simply to recognize doubt as a trickster and to sit with it in quiet times when you are not being called upon to do a massage. In such moments, you are free to think back honestly about previous experiences of doubt and to get familiar with whatever doubt lingers within you. You can think of ways to deal with it. You may actually discover that you're questioning if you remember all the steps to this massage. In response, you may simply choose to review your learning material, which can remind you that yes, you have accomplished this and you are ready for your next massage. You may also remind yourself that you are just human and therefore imperfect, and ultimately all you can do is your best. Mostly, it is helpful to remember that you too are vulnerable because you are human. And the more human you are, the more you will feel that. But it is not a weakness because it is authentic. Just recognize the inner process of doubt and breathe through it. Do your best. Communicate as you've been taught and be open to whatever happens. Being okay in between massage times with who you are as a masseuse, as a practice, makes it easier to be in that calm, safe state when the client walks in. And ironically, in such a state, you are much less distracted from things that will stand between you and your work. Just food for thought. Presence of the receiver. What can you do to prepare the receiver to have the right energy when they enter your studio? Nothing. How easy is that? Joking aside, it is true. As we stated in Book 1, you obviously have no control over the psychological or physical or emotional mindset or headspace of the receiver. You only have your ability to create a safe, neutral space and your ability to remain safe and content within that space, regardless of who comes through the door and what they bring. You can, however, if you feel it helpful, play a game in which you imagine being in the studio, the door opens, and in walks who? Make it up. Make this something you do to prepare yourself in between massages such that nothing can surprise you. Imagine different scenarios and imagine yourself handling them with calmness no matter what. Picture your success, and it has a funny way of calming you and making your success more likely in the future. Cultivating tolerance. The main message of Book 2 is something rather simple. It suggests that if you sit and you think about dealing with issues and you think about these concepts and creating energy and safe space, and you think about these things in a structured way in between massages, it will be easier and more effective when the massage comes. And that's a pretty simple instruction. The thing is, it does help. It helps to foster an emotionally accepting space ahead of time when you might need it. When it comes to tolerance, be truthful with yourself in that sitting space about what things you find hard to tolerate in others. Do you have issues with a gender or another? Do you have issues with certain body types? Does it trouble you if a male gets an erection, even though it's a basic physiological response to stimulation of the nerves and doesn't necessarily imply that they are thinking sexually about the massage? In fact, that person is in a very vulnerable position. Are you prepared to deal with whatever happens in a tolerant way? This is the deeper layer of tolerance. Be truthful with yourself about what things you find hard to tolerate in others, what behaviors, what attributes, physical or otherwise. Now imagine such a person coming into the studio with the thing you find the hardest to tolerate, and just by their presence, they challenge you. It's okay to be honest about the fact that this is one of the things in the world that challenges you. We all have them. And this is the point of the exercise of doing this in between massages. Can you find compassion for that person just as they are? They are coming to you in trust with a need. Can you find the authentically compassionate space for them even though they challenge your tolerance? Knowing where this space resides within you and where the challenges reside within you helps you find it more easily and to process these things more easily when the moment arrives. Confidentiality and communication. Depending on where you decide to work as a masseuse, you may be part of an organization, big or small, that already has its own policies around confidentiality and communication. If this is so, just take the time to review them in your downtime. Refresh yourself. Verify for yourself that you're following the structure that's provided. It gives you a sense of safety as well. If you feel like the policies could use improvement and you think the people you work for are open to it, have a group discussion. With the right people, you can learn surprisingly helpful things from one another, even for the simple stuff. Another idea, specifically if you have your own practice, is to formulate your own written policies. There are scads of examples of confidentiality policies and communication available online, totally suitable to this application. Find one you like, or use different ones to construct your own. You may be surprised to find that implementing even simple documents to give some structure to this professional side of your practice can give you a bit more confidence. It can elevate your sense of professionalism when the time for massage arrives. Go back to them, review them, and use them as touchstones. More than just serving as a guide, the process itself can be helpful. Even keeping a diary gives you time to reflect on what you are doing in between massages, expanding your awareness of yourself. In a way, it can make you take yourself more seriously as a professional, which has an uplifting benefit all round. Energy, flow, and synchronizing with the receiver. Now, how exactly can you rehearse the experience of feeling synchronized in energy with the receiver between massages when there is no receiver around? Well, you can't. But there are things you can do to enhance your own ability to enter this kind of state. Now, what state are we talking about? Well, maybe one in which your intuition and not your intellect takes a dominant role. Note that we say a dominant role, which means that the intellect is still strongly present and doing its part, telling you this comes before this, etc. But the intuition is taking the lead. That is how we reach for energy and flow. This is the meditative state we enter sometimes when we drift off a little bit and find ourselves thinking not in a straight line of logic or time, like we need to when we're doing a math test, for example, and more in broad landscapes of thought, not really needing a clear direction, but rather letting that part of us just do what it wants and meander across this thought landscape. This is an intuitive state, by the way, and that the real cutting-edge thinkers have often claimed as the source of their genius ideas. Einstein, in particular, credited his intuition with leading his intellect to his greatest discoveries. Okay, but we digress a little bit. What is the point? There are exercises that can enhance our ability to enter this state and make it more accessible to us. A good example is the practice from Tai Chi known as pushing hands. This is a simple but very effective two-person exercise that works very much in this space. It is something you must think about to coordinate, but if you're going to get into the rhythm of it, you must enter a state of synchronicity and flow. That is quite similar to the energy of being synchronized with your client during a massage, and it moves beyond the intellect into an intuitive space. Now, they are not directly comparable as experiences, but pushing hands, as an example, does involve a form of syncing energy with someone else, and the role of giver or receiver constantly flows between the two people. You may, within your own practice, whatever it involves, discover other activities that enhance these skills in their own way. Self-care for the masseuse. If there is one topic that is very important for Book 2, it is self-care for the masseuse. This is definitely a critical activity for the masseuse to perform in between massages. Massaging is physical work. It is emotional, intuitive work. It has all the challenges of working with the energy of others on all its levels. Looking after yourself should be a priority. When we speak about the value of having structure for yourself in between massages, the activities of self-care are where you will likely find the most value. Your body, your energetic state, these are your literal tools for your profession. Like every other profession, you will find yourself in poor form if you don't take the time to look after your tools. Now, for the sake of clarity, we'll divide self-care into two areas: non-physical, or mind-spirit, and physical, which is body. But in truth, these things are not separate because they're all contained in the oneness of you. mind, and spirit. When we work with other people, sometimes even just the ones we share a workspace with, we can end up absorbing the energy of others, which can be very draining and tiring. It is not a judgment on others. It is often just a byproduct of being around other people for intuitive types. Simple practices in restorative meditation can go a long way and are a healthy part of a self-care routine. Quietening the mind techniques, but also using simple visualizations can go a long way. Imagine yourself in a chair, surrounded by the people and activities of your day. Then imagine the emergence of a beam of light from above that surrounds you. Let it grow stronger and stronger until it surrounds you in a private space, one in which you cannot hear or see or be seen by those people and those activities. This is not a judgment of them. It is a practice in restoring your autonomy and your connection to the private space of self-loving autonomy that is given to all of us. It is a source of strength. It lets others have their karma to deal with, as we will have ours. It is not uncommon to meet people who make all kinds of manipulative and unconscious attempts to ensnarl you in their dilemmas. In essence, to push some of their karma onto your plate like vegetables they don't want to eat. Reminding yourself that this space of your own very much exists, and no one, no matter how hard they try to convince you otherwise, has any say over that. This is a practice in restoring your balance, as it focuses on remembering your autonomous rights, including your right to not be responsible for the energy or karma of others. Body and beyond. Other practices already mentioned do wonders for restoring balance to your mind and spirit. Activities such as Tai Chi or Qigong, just as an example, work the mind and the body in unison and have the same restorative ability. Within massage, we talk about the physiological effect of blood and lymphatic flow and how they remove toxins and restore oxygen to the cells. Our own physical activity will do the same for us, which will have wonderful benefits in all the places we need them for a practice in self-care. As a masseuse, you may also learn techniques to massage yourself, which can be surprisingly effective. In fact, Moving Crafts offers a course in self-massage. Finally, don't ignore the fact that this is physically taxing work. If at some point you suffer from metacarpal or tendon strain resulting from your work, you will not be the first or the last masseuse to suffer these. A basic but thorough stretching routine specific to your needs will be a good friend to you if you are faithful to it in practice. Care of the studio and equipment. Depending on where you work, you may be part of a team and you may have established responsibilities for studio and equipment care already. This is especially true if you share that space. More than likely, you work under a as clean as you found it policy. If you have your own studio and your own equipment, your sense of ownership and attachment will likely be even stronger, just naturally. In either case, it is important to take your time, of course, but also give some thoughts of gratitude to the equipment and acknowledge their role in letting you have the practice and life to which you aspire. It seems simple, but it is just an important reminder that how we think and feel about our activities, no matter how simple and banal they seem, have a lasting effect. It is all a reflection of your attitude and respect toward yourself and your practice. And this concludes our reading of The Spirit of Massage, Book 2. Please join us for the audio version of Book 3.